now proudly presented on SNME. That's Sunday night's main event. Patreon and free feed.
Yo, we just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your host, your boy George Mackay, live pre-recorded here at New Frontier Pro, and I am sitting down with a legend in professional wrestling. In my honest opinion, in Canada anyways, should be more so professional wrestling, but the one and only Bobby Sharp, Lion Warrior himself. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is 14, first pro wrestling match. Insane for you. I mean, that's like prodigy to the next level, to be that early going into the ring. What about that moment in time made you feel that you were ready to go?
Man, looking back, I wasn't ready. I was not ready. But like you talk to any 14-year-old kid that loves wrestling, and you give him a chance to be not only in the ring and training, but like on a show in front of, there were like 300 people at the first show. On a show, like of course we'll jump at the odds to do it and stuff. And the timing worked out because there was a group of us, about 5 or 6 of us that were all under 18. So the division was born in that retrospect where it's like we work with each other, or we work with like the junior heavyweights in a sense, but we had a bunch of us working together. So we were able to at least be one match on the show, put it together in training, blah, blah, blah. It sped up the process significantly because then it gave me an advantage when I did turn 18 and could take the bookings and other promotions and stuff and not be a liability anymore. I now have these connections already. 4 years of already meeting these guys and being on shows with them, and they know I'm worthwhile booking. So it worked out in the end for sure.
Absolutely, it did. And I mean, you've been wrestling for the better part of 20 years. Over 20 years. I believe 21 years, if I'm not mistaken.
21 years this February 28th. So what? 10 more days and we have a 21-year anniversary.
Wow. Well, happy early anniversary. This will premiere after the anniversary, so that'll be great. But one thing I want to talk about is 2005 Pro Wrestler of the Year. Youngest person ever to get that honor.
Yep.
And again, showing the prodigy-like skill set that you had to be ahead of the curve and ahead of the game and to consistently be reinventing yourself with all these accolades coming so early on in your career and having probably a lot more eyes on you, wondering, you know, how far you could go in this business. Did you feel pressure?
100%. I was kind of like, when I first broke in as well, there weren't that too many rookies breaking in Alberta at the time. It had been, the Stampede had closed down, and a lot of the guys had been working around for a while. So I was also like breaking barriers. I was the first to get the connections and first to get the contacts, and guys were following me after getting, myself getting booked in other places and going out to Manitoba and Saskatchewan and BC. And the funny thing about that Wrestler of the Year award is that was like the Edmonton Boxing Commission that voted that for me. So it wasn't like a wrestling organization, or it wasn't just like a company put together a little tiny award to help me out. It was the actual physical, like we had an awards banquet, an awards dinner, where it was like, this is the Boxer of the Year, this is the MMA Fighter of the Year. I can't remember the young lady's name, but there was a female boxer that she was presented an award, like she was having a world championship match, and then 16-year-old Bobby got his for Wrestler of the Year award too. So it was a pretty cool experience. It did put a lot of pressure on me because then there was a lot of hype and a lot of expectations that maybe you didn't know exist, but a lot of people have them on you, and like, it's a lot for a kid.
Absolutely it is, but I mean, I think you rose to the challenge and you had a great career, and I noticed that in the research that I did, you traveled all the way to Can-Am Wrestling, worked with Scott D'Amore, got to train over there with him and his crew. I mean, what was that like, learning from, you know, ultimately someone who would take Impact/TNA out of obscurity? I mean, not that you would know at the time, but knowing the type of mind that he has, it's not surprising. What was it like learning from Scott D'Amore, who at that point in time was not fully a household name?
Incredible. It completely changed my game. Completely broke all my bad habits. Made me the wrestler I am today. I kind of have like a before I trained with Scott career, and kind of like a post training with Scott career, because it changed everything about how I wrestle, and made me so much better. Yeah, I just packed up my car, grabbed my dog, and drove all the way out to Windsor from Edmonton to train with him. And I mean, like, I don't regret it at all. The connections I made through him have been incredible, and like, that's a friendship that's going to last my whole life. So I really appreciate it for everything Scott ever did for me, and for everything he's done for wrestling, for sure.
Absolutely. Scott D'Amore in pro wrestling is kind of synonymous. Were you at all taken back by the news that he was released from TNA, if I can ask for your opinion on that, because of the friendship that you have with him?
I was just very surprised. That's kind of all I can say. It's just a shocking situation. I don't think the story is ended for Scott, for sure. He's kind of got his pick of the jobs right now. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. but very surprising. Yeah, I think I'm following suit with everybody else in wrestling to say that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole roster, up in arms, the whole wrestling community up in arms, saying like, look what he did, and you're just going to go ahead and kick him to the curb. It's like, okay, I got you here, kid.
feels like it,
Now I'm going to go. Here's your walking papers. After 20 plus years, see you later.
Just
Merry Christmas.
lie about it too. It's very bizarre. To me, it was just a matter of knowing Scott the way that I know Scott is that this company realized, and by this company I mean Anthem, realized that maybe TNA is a moneymaker and they can get behind it a little bit. They want their fingerprints a little bit more on it. And what I think is that maybe they asked Scott to demote him or have someone work above him. But like Scott's vision, it was working. And to have him work underneath someone and completely change it, it would have been pointless. It needs to be Scott's vision. That's that.
I love that. I think that's the best way to get that part of the conversation. So, you had a career-ending huge setback. You took the much-needed hip surgery, and then you had the same injury as Edge, and it was a setback for you. And there was I read a really interesting article, a very powerful article, how you were flying high again in pro wrestling. That was actually the name of the article, Bobby Sharp flying ahead in pro wrestling. And you kind of talked about how you're in this dark place. You weren't sure what was going to happen. And I believe it was the Achilles tendon, right? And that is a serious setback. But knowing that you had seen some wrestlers that you, I guess, look up to in some way, come back from these things, that helped give you the motivation to get back in the ring and retrain yourself. And now you're probably in the best shape of your career, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like, with the hip injury, that stemmed from a car accident maybe 10 or 15 years ago now. Right, I was a passenger and I tore both the labrums and both my hips. And then just the wrestling didn't make it better, obviously. So that was a nagging injury. So when COVID hit and everything had shut down, the replacement was coming. Like I had gotten some, they tried to repair it or they tried to clean it up a little bit, and I ended up getting a bone degeneration disease, and it sped up the process. And I was still wrestling, but fairly aggressive schedule, like 100 matches a year and stuff like that with that injury. So I did Scott's whole camp needing the hip surgery. So when I finally got it done, I had the mindset where it was like, well, I had a pretty good career. If this is it, this is it. Like I'd rather have a pain-free 30s and move on than try and force myself something I couldn't do. So I always had in my mind that I'm going to have one match coming back. And now this is like, might sound stupid looking back on it now, but in my first match back, I talked to the guy about doing a superplex. And I told him I want you to do it because I said to him, this right here will be gauge my rest of my career. If I land and it hurts, I'm done. If I land and I don't, then I'm good to go. And it felt great. And I wish I did the hip surgery sooner. I wish I had done it way sooner just because of how good I felt afterwards and how much more amazing I feel. It's incredible. So and with the Achilles though, that one was like heartbreaking just for the sense of it. It happened so quick, like 8 months after I'd come back from the other one, which I could have still put off the hip surgery, but the Achilles, and such a freak accident where it was like my foot bashed off the side of an apron, and it was just enough to completely rupture the whole thing. But it's funny because coming back from that was very, very dark places after that, and very depressing. And that one was way harder to come back from. That one was a lot more issues, a lot more learning how to have footwork again. The funniest thing about that is that like maybe I came back and about 6 months after the fact, we did some tapings in Edmonton, and Edge was there, and I was able to corner him and talk to him a bit about it and just kind of ask like, how did you overcome this, and what did you do to rehab? And that was actually pretty cool because he wasn't supposed to be at the taping, and he was just showing up as a surprise appearance or something. So getting a chance to actually talk to him and stuff, I was like, this is kind of like fate, because he came back and had a Hall of Fame career post Achilles, and then with the hip replacement, Eddie Guerrero had a hip replacement in '97, so his whole WWE career was with a false hip. So to me, it was like those two guys were able to accomplish what they accomplished with both the injuries, and I know it's possible. So
amazing, and that's an amazing story. And like I said, in the best shape that I've seen you in from some of the matches that I've watched and stuff like that. Now, being from Alberta, how cool is it that you are the Stu Hart Memorial Champion? I mean, that's pretty damn cool, right? I mean, the Harts go hand in hand with not even Alberta pro wrestling, with pro wrestling in general.
I got to stop you right there.
Okay.
Literally yesterday, they retired the Stu Hart Memorial Championship belt.
Well, I didn't know that, guys. Breaking news to me.
Literally yesterday.
So my research was up to date, people.
Yeah, it was. It was literally yesterday.
Okay, well then let me reshape the question. Being the last
Yeah.
Stu Hart Memorial Champion, what is that like to be representing something that has the Hart name and fingerprints kind of all over it?
And that's what Alberta wrestling's all about. Like, you've got the godfather, the granddaddy right there, Stu Hart, and I mean, like, paved the way for all of us, and still his name holds weight. Obviously, there was a belt we had for quite a while that a lot of people wanted, had a picture of him on it and everything, and I mean, like, being able to, like, I love the Harts. I love, like, Ross and Diana, and to represent them or their family is super, super, super cool. So that was obviously it was just a huge honor to do anything involved with any of those family members and stuff. I wish, I guess they're now dipping back into professional wrestling, which is good, because I don't think they ever should have walked away as much as they did. But, like, now that they're getting back into things and they're starting to realize that there's some money to be made in Alberta, I think that name is going to take off again. So yeah, it was pretty cool holding that belt, and I'll always be able to say I was the last champion. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's synonymous with you. You guys are intertwined forever, you and that title. So I got to ask this, with all these kind of biopics of wrestlers coming out now, the Iron Claw being so successful with the Von Erichs and stuff like that, do you think that they can make a Hart Family movie? And if they did, would you throw in any names to cast? Like, who could you see playing Bret Hart if they were to throw in a Hart Family movie?
Oh, man.
There's a lot of talented actors.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think there might be enough meat on a bone. No, for a wrestling fan, there's meat on the bone to do a Hart Family movie, I would say. But I don't think for, like, the casual moviegoer, there'd be enough connection, because you need, like, there was tragedy, but it just feels like, I don't know, just doesn't feel like you could really get a real good movie. When I tell you what would be a good movie, a biopic would be Chris Benoit, which is maybe taboo to say that, but I think that would be something they would probably put their hat into more than a Hart Family one. I would actually like to see a 3 or 4 hour Hart Family documentary that's really in depth. That's not just WWE produced. Would be pretty cool.
I'd like to see CBC or something like that take that on.
That's what I
exactly.
meant,
Yeah, that's actually bomb.
Yeah, like a Canadian company to do a documentary on it would be pretty cool. Because, like, yeah, their story is very tragic when you think about the passing of Dean, passing of Owen, and then all the wrestlers that.
Jim and his struggles with abuse. I mean, don't forget about the British Bulldog and his struggles as well. There actually is a little bit more tragedy than you would think if you look about everything.
Oh yeah,
right?
they would have to really pick the wrestling side of things to do the tragedy, but man, it always felt like the Stampede territory, and I don't know if it was just because, like, the travel was so difficult or something about Western Canada, but we have a lot of guys that ended up that were huge stars in Western Canada that had a lot of tragic endings, which is very sad. A lot of heroes of mine. So yeah, it's crazy. I don't know, something about Western Canada, but maybe the travel killed these guys. I'm not too sure.
Maybe. So I'm a Triple H mark. I love Triple H, and I know you're a Triple H fan as well. And I know Kurt Angle's up there as well. I know you got a lot of people that you admire. What about Triple H is something that you admire about Triple H? Because I could say what I admire about Triple H is just everything. He was just a great performer all around for myself as a fan. I never stepped in the ring and had the balls to get in there, but I do love talking wrestling with anybody that will. So having conversation with you in your 21 years, this is a bucket list moment for me. But what gravitated you to being a Triple H fan?
Man, he was cool. He was just the coolest looking guy.
Right?
That was what 99, 2000 Triple H. That, you know what's funny? It technically changed my life, and it's funny that he's, like, running WWE now, because, like, I won't even get really the chance to tell him without looking like a kiss ass, but, like, that completely changed how I felt about wrestling. That completely changed everything. He looked so cool, and, like, he's such an evil, sadistic bad guy in the ring in 2000, and, like, everything about him, he was, I don't know, it's everything about how he was his promos were great, his look was great, his ability was, like, top notch, his aggression, all this stuff was so cool for me. And, like, I was more of always a bad guy fan, I suppose.
You gotta love the bad guy.
And even to this day, like, his whole thing rings true with me. It's the reason I grew my hair out. It's the reason I wore trunks. I don't got knee braces, but, like, it's the reason I have longer knee pads, because he had the longer knee pads and stuff like that. It was the reason I do my hands, tape my hands the way he used to tape his hands. So, like, I mirrored a lot of my stuff after him. And then he wrote a book, I don't want to say 2003 or 4 or something, called Making the Game, which is like a workout manual / biography, but it was more of a workout manual of how we would work out on the road. That thing was my Bible. Like, I couldn't afford money for a personal trainer, so I had the Triple H book I would take with me to the gym and write down my weights and sets inside of it and stuff. And yeah, so, like, that guy kind of, like, completely molded me without even really being around.
Absolutely. That's incredible. That's fantastic. So, I mean, everything modeled after the game. That's super cool that you evolved that. But you yourself also carved out your own path. Like, where does the Lion Warrior moniker come from?
So it was originally, I was given the moniker Young Lion, and I'm assuming it's just because of the hair is why they gave it to me in the first place. But I didn't mind Young Lion, but you only be Young Lion for so long. But there was something about lion that, like, I guess if you were to give a personality to an animal, and the lion and you gave the personality of a lion to somebody, like desire and like pride and like aggression was all part of the game. And I was like, the hard work that I put behind the scenes and like the way I wrestle and stuff, it's like, it kind of does remind me of a lion was a human and would get into the ring. But then like the warrior side of things was like, there was a book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which really spoke to me when I was younger. And it was about how basically like somebody, how they could overcome their own demons and how they can like just find inner peace kind of thing. So I was like, it's a good combination because you got like the lion side of things, which is like an aggressive animal, and then the warrior side of things, which normally to people is someone who's like a brute and a soldier, but to me it was like a peaceful side of the things where it's like sometimes you have to go to war to find peace. So that's kind of how I fell on Lion Warrior for sure. Yeah.
I love that. Every story that you told is so cool. There's layers to it. I dig it so much. As you enter into your 30s, and you're 35, I'm 40, so you look like you're in your 20s. I look like I'm in my 50s, but that's fine. What is the next stage of evolution in the wrestling business for Bobby Sharp? What do you want to accomplish in this, I guess, second stage that you're in now, being in the best shape of your life, modeling yourself, coming back from those injuries, and just probably feeling the best you've ever felt inside that squared circle?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do feel the best. I feel like I'm firing all cylinders, my work wise. My booking, my calendar is crazy full. Actually, like from the end of March, I would have done 37 shows from January to March, which is a fairly crazy full-time schedule. Yeah. So I still got about 17 or 18 left here until the end of March. My goals now is like originally, obviously everyone's got goals to get to TV and blah, 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 but indie wrestling is really helping pay my bills, and the Canadian wrestling scene is really taken off, and like there's so many shows and there's so many more opportunities. So like my goal now is to kind of make it my job, and it's going that way. Like bookings every single weekend. I'm on the phone. Now I feel like in Canada we can now become wrestlers like they were able to do it in the States, where there was so much work in such a small area, and I'm able to pull it off in Canada. There aren't too many that are as aggressive as I am in doing it, but that's my goal now, is just to keep that calendar full, because it can be taken away from me at any time, because I've realized that. I know that I am an injury away probably from, like, if it's as as debilitating as the Achilles again, like, knock on wood that it won't be, and I'll have 5 or 7 more years. But now I'm like at a point where I'm on a lot of shows. I look the part and I act the part, and I feel like I'm able to help other guys and carry shows, and I'm not a burden on any promotion or anything like that. So at this stage in the game, it's to try and make a full-time living of it in Canada, and I think I'm doing that. I'm definitely on more shows than just about anybody else, so it feels really good right now. And that's my goal now, is just to continue getting as many bookings as humanly possible and try to make it my job. Yeah.
I think you've done that. I think you've done that fantastically. And the fact that I could sit here and I could say, not only do I get to sit down and talk with Bobby Sharp, but I actually get to call the Bobby Sharp match tonight, which is super awesome. I'm looking forward to it. You are definitely one of the best in Canada, and a lot more people should have their eyes on you because you deserve that.
Appreciate it.
I honestly believe that. All right, guys, that's it for this one. As always, I'm your host, your boy, George Mackay. This is the legend, the man himself, Bobby Sharp, the Lion Warrior. And this has been one hell of a conversation. You know what, Bobby? Do me a favor. Before you go, tell the people that you had a great conversation with Straight Talk Wrestling, and they should subscribe because this was awesome.
The Lion Warrior had a great time with Straight Talk Wrestling. You should subscribe to listen to the best in independent wrestling.
That was fire. That's going to be my moniker for sure. All right, guys, peace out. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on that notification bell so you get notified each time we post a video. Alternatively, you can check us out on all podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. We are also available on the SNME network. That's the Sunday Nights Main Event Patreon. Please feel free to check us out there as well. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at _Straight Talk on Twitter, at Straight Talk Wrestling on Instagram, Straight Talk Wrestling on Facebook, Straight Talk Wrestling on TikTok, TikTok. And of course, you can check out all our merch at ProWrestlingTees.com.
I don't need a nigga cosign. Without the liquor, you become a victim. You ain't never got a pole mine. I ain't messing with this generation. Fuck your gen, I ain't got.